Hi everyone, this is Frank DiMora with the Last Chronicles of Planet Earth. If you just found my YouTube channel and you'd like to download my book for free, go up right here. You'll see how you'll be able to get to my website, BibleProphecyMan.com. And once you're there, you'll see a link here. Click this link and you can download the book today for free. I'm going to get into some prophecies today concerning these particular prophecies from Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Psalms, and Ezekiel, of which I've been posting almost daily now about. But the Isaiah 17:1 and Jeremiah, their prophecies have to deal with Syria and the destroying or the destruction of Syria and Damascus. Now the Psalm 83, we see that Syria is going to be playing a major role as she aligns up with the rest of the nations that border Israel to attack Israel. And that's the Psalm 83 war. And of course the Ezekiel 38 war, which will come after the Psalm 83 war, which Iran will be playing a major role in when they attack Israel with the Russians. So let's get one more. It says Matthew 24:7 in this passage. One of the prophecies in this passage has to do with kingdom against kingdom. Jesus told us that in the last days we're going to see nations fighting against themselves. And obviously, if you've been watching the news, Syria is in the midst of this right now. And so let's head off right to the news. And once you get into my website, if you're at my YouTube channel, go to my website. You'll have the links like this right there. You'll be able to click that link and read the entire article, because in many cases, I'm not going to read the entire article. I'll just give you a synapse of it and let you read what you want to read of it. And some of the articles are pretty long, and for time constraints, I'm not reading them all. But in this case, let's go. It says the U.S. must assure Israel it'll use might to stop Iran. And it says the United States must assure Israel that if it delays any military moves against Iran's nuclear program, Washington will use its own might to stop Tehran from weaponizing its nuclear program. For former IDF intelligence chief Amos Yadlin wrote Thursday, U.S. President Barack Obama must shift the Israeli defense establishment's thinking from the focus of the zone of immunity to a zone of trust, Yadlin wrote in the New York Times the op-ed post last month. Defense Minister Ehud Barak alluded to Israel's red line when it might feel the need to attack Iran, describing the point as when Iran reaches the zero of immunity from an effective Israeli attack. So what this article again is telling us is that the United States is looking for some insurances. Israel is looking to the United States for the insurances that they will take care of the problem. In other words, attack them, wipe out the nuclear facilities. Now, the way the Barack Obama is working, since he became president, I highly doubt that he would make a move against Iran. First of all, the United States is in a dire straits as far as their debt, and making another war would just increase that debt exponentially, and the United States can't afford it. Second of all, the United States knows that if they were to move in on Iran, it could set off a regional war or World War III. So Israel is asking the United States for insurance, and I don't think that they're going to get it. So now, in hindsight, what they're really saying here is if you don't move, we are going to do it. So you have, again, the rumor of war, one of the prophecies that Jesus talked about, Matthew 24:6 and 7. And so we hear about the rumors of the war daily. And it's not just Iran being hit by Israel or the United States, hitting Iran. It's whatever the case, it's in the news almost on a daily basis now. It's something that most of you would recognize daily if you're watching the news. So this is definitely one of the areas to be watching for, because it just could ignite a regional war. Now let me go back to my site again. Just take a couple seconds for it to get back there. But we're going to head into I know that it's loaded as soon as the last Chronicles comes back. There you go. Now let's go back. It says, Israel unveils sophisticated bomb shelters. Israel, when you go to this article, you're going to find out that Israel has opened up, I believe it's 4 stories below, and it can house over 1,600 Israelis. And they're getting ready. What they know is going to be another war. They also know that if they have to attack Iran, you'll see this in this article when you go there, but when they, and I'll click on it for you so you can see what I'm talking about, but the Israel knows that if they have to attack Iran's nuclear facility, that there would be a retaliation coming from Iran. And this is the reason, one of the reasons why they're doing this. And here you see that the shelter is 4 stories underground. It's going to house at least 1,600 people. And it talks about the conflict that's going on between the Palestinians and how the tensions are rising. And again, these are indicators that the Psalm 83 war is coming. Why? Well, if you haven't been watching my broadcasts or come to any of my presentations, you would know that the names of these people living in the Gaza Strip, which are the Palestinians, the Hamas, and these other factions that hate Israel, they've been lobbing in these missiles into Israel, causing more conflict, and they're going to keep doing this until there is a war, and that war will end up being the Psalm 83 war. And then again, it also talks about Iran. It says, recent talk of conflict with Iran has given the safety measures extra relevance. It says the officials say that the timing is coincidental. Israel is under constant threat from the hostile groups on its northern and southern borders. Now, they're in reference to Syria, Lebanon, and now even Egypt, as they've gone into another Islamic government under the rule of the Muslim Brotherhood. So, and by the way, again, this is a prelude to Psalm 83, because these are the people that are warned that would attack Israel in that psalm. It says, the Israeli leader have hinted they may mount a strike against Iran's nuclear facility. So here you go, a second article talking about the threat of war coming, or wars, or rumors of war if you want. Even as the American military leaders urge Israel to wait for tough economic sanctions to take effect. And they are not doing a good job as far as affecting Iran, because Iran doesn't really care what the United States or anybody else does. They have a goal, and they're not going to stop their goal until they achieve it, and that goal is to arm themselves as a nuclear power. Should Israel attack, Iran has promised a punishing counterattack or counter-strike. Iran has missiles capable of striking anywhere in Israel. It also supports anti-Israel militant group, the Hezbollah and the Hamas, which, by the way, are 2 of the groups that we see in Psalm 83, which have fired thousands of rockets into Israel in the past. And I mentioned this many, many times in my past post, warning also that they're not going to stop. Israel's military intelligence chief recently established that the country's enemies have 200,000 rockets and missiles aimed at the Jewish state. And so now you know why Israel is building these bomb shelters, getting ready for war. And again, what they're getting ready for is exactly what God had showed us in the scriptures. So when you're watching the news and you don't know anything about Bible prophecy, obviously you're not going to know why it's so significant. And this is one of the reasons why it takes so much time to try to open the door to as many people as I can so that they'll understand what's about to take place. Now here is another one. There's a prophecy that I call a road to Daniel's vision, which you'll see in chapter 2 of the book of Daniel. And this is the rise of the Antichrist, the rise of the last world power. And if you've been coming to my website, you've seen the documentation that I've been putting out showing that there is a crisis, a worldwide crisis. This economic crisis is getting worse, and it's going to lead to Revelation chapter 13, where one man will control the entire world's economy. And so I've been showing you almost on a daily basis of news leading to a depression or a major correction that's going to have to take place. Now, let's take a look at the first article. It says that the job rate in the 17 countries that use the euro rose to 10.7% in January, while December's figures were revised up to, and this is pretty high, 10.4% to 10.6%. And look at the number of people that are out of work. 16.9 million people out of work in the bloc, the Eurostat said. And of course, there's more to this article, but what I'm trying to show you is that in the book of Daniel, and especially when you read chapter 2, verses 41 through 43, you're going to see that this western leg of the old Roman Empire, which was prophesied that the revived Roman Empire would come back, this would not cleave, these nations would not cleave together like iron and clay, as I mentioned yesterday in that video. And so we know that there's going to be disruption, there's going to be problems, and these problems will cause probably the breakup, and then there will be a smaller group of nations, and we believe that those smaller group of nations will end up being the 10 toes in the figure in both Daniel chapter 2, and then again we see in Daniel chapter 7, and also in the book of Revelation. You could read chapter 17. And so there's a lot of significance what's going on in the European Union. Besides that, we see Greece is in a mess, and you're going to see some other information on that as well. So let's go down to another article, which, again, when you get to my site, you can click this link. But right here it says inflation. Now they're talking about the United States of America, which is in dire straits, and they're raising a debt ceiling, and it's just what's happening in the United States. People are not prepared for what is coming. But anyway, in this article, when you get to it, you'll find out that the real inflation is higher than what the government is saying, and they're going to tell you why. It's a pretty good article, but in short, because of the time constraints here, just let me tell you that what they're telling us here is again, pointing to prophecy. For example, let me just focus in on this one paragraph. It says, over the past year, the EPI is up just over 8% according to the economics group. The biggest factor, motor fuel and transportation costs are up. Now, this is obviously your gas that's going into the trucks and the vehicles. And it's up 21.6% from a year ago levels. Now, the cost of food. Now, this is up, obviously. And they're telling you these are the things that weren't factoring in from the government as far as the inflation goes. But when you add in all of these things like the fuel going up and the cost of food, prescription drugs, tobacco, all of these factors are of what makes up the real statistics for inflation. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out here, because I've been warning about the cost of food going up, and again here they're telling us that the cost of food is going up. And why is this so significant? Because in the book of Revelation, you'll see in chapter in the book that God had warned us, Jesus warns us, that in the last days, people will be working all day long for a very, very small amount of food. And so what does this tell us? Well, it tells us that the price of food must have gone through the roof. And obviously, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to cause that. We believe that there's going to be massive destruction. Heat will, cause major droughts, wipe out the food. There's going to be wars where people won't be planting. That's going to cause shortages of food. There's going to be pestilence that will inundate many of the crops. There's going to be floods that will destroy the crops. And there's other reasons why crops will be taken out of the picture. But we do know over the past 5 years that the cost of food has just skyrocketed along with these other factors here. So all of these things are leading to a major collapse. Now, how bad is the collapse? Well, the governments won't really tell you, but when you're taking a look, here's one of the headlines I thought was pretty interesting, because Wyoming House advanced what they call the Doomsday Bill. And they believe that they can see the future, and they wanted to prepare for the future. So what they did is they're trying to make their own currency for their state if the collapse came. And they wanted to get ready for it. Now, here's the first news that I brought to you. Now I'm going to give you an update on this, because I just found out that this close vote here, 30 to 27, it was defeated. So it did not pass. But there's other states that want to try to do this. And you'll have this information. It says 13 states considering establishing currency. So we have states within the United States who can see the future, and they want to get ready for it. Now, when you go to this right here, this link down here, when you're at my site, you'll actually see some local areas that are using alternative currencies. And this is indicative of what the officials are looking at as far as our economy, what they're viewing and what they're seeing, and they're making alternative currencies for what they know is coming. Now, here's another article about the euro, the European Union, and how the debt crisis there has just forged more problems for Germany, who was one of the stronger nations. And again, if you read Daniel chapter 2, verses 41 through 43, you'll see that the Lord said that there would be some strong and some weak, and obviously Germany is one of the strongest in the European Union. But they wanted to create this firewall of when they were going to help Greece, but it's not going very well. And it looks like, according to this article, there's a really good possibility that Greece is going to end up defaulting. But we'll wait and see. And then if you want, there is news that I think that you'll find it very interesting, because it has to do with Barack Obama. And this article says media finally paying attention to eligibility. And if you want to find out, there's some information down here. You can click this information, and you'll be able to sign up. Or if it doesn't work here, then you can just go down here, and you'll be able to sign up to get this information sent to you when they have a live stream, because they're going to get there was a panel set up to investigate Barack Obama's birth certificate done by law enforcement agencies and lawyers. So it's going to be very interesting to find out, because I believe that there is the possibility that Barack Obama is not who he really pertains to be. And this is going to be a very interesting event, because the sheriff who's put this thing together said that the news would shock people. So let's find out. If you want to get this information, there's a link for it. And then finally, we have the Luke 21:25, the storms. And the Lord told us in the last days there was going to be much perplexity when these storms came, and that's what we're seeing. Now, yesterday I gave you some information about the tornadoes. We're already beginning to see that. I showed you yesterday that there was 1,709, which broke a record. And then yesterday, between yesterday and today, or the 29th, because today is March 30th, there were 33 tornadoes just in the last couple of days. So the season has started already, and I'll keep you up to date on the tallies of what's going. But this does show us there's already been major hardships in much of the United States, in the northern part of the United States, due to these storms, these winter storms, and tornadoes in it as well. So again, you're going to see some other information down here. You're going to see some information about the animals, the birds, and dying. And here's the scriptures for it. And then I give you some information about a lot of the dogs in Mexico are coming down with rabies. And I'll give you some other information. But there's a lot of prophecy news there. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. So I would just ask again, please, you'll get all this information when you go into my book. It's loaded with documentation to show you that Jesus is coming. He is coming soon, and all the signs are there. So you need to prepare yourself, and the only way that can happen is if you receive Jesus Christ as your Savior today.